In today's episode, we talk about writing SOPs using AI. We talk about a look at OpenAI's agent builder, which is exciting, and using AI to retain employee knowledge. Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome to the AI Lab Unfiltered podcast. We're going to talk about everything AI, and today is no different, I guess. People ask us a lot about our podcast and how we do it, and what makes us special and what makes us highly valuable is think tank thought leadership. And they are the people who power us. They are the people who provide the studio. They provide the editing, the social. You want to say your tagline?
Oh, yeah. So I don't get paid to do this, but what I like to say is if you want to be cool, have a podcast. If you're going to have a podcast, do it with think tank thought leadership.
That's how we pick up all the chicks. So today we're going to talk about RAG data management.
And groupies, apparently.
And I don't have any groupies.
No. Okay.
It's long gone. And we've got a platform, a project that we're actually going to show. And we have Mr. Chip LaFleur, from the founder and CEO of LaFleur Marketing. Welcome, Chip.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being on.
So set the stage a little bit of what your company is, what it does, just so people have a better understanding of who you are.
Yeah, I could do that. That's going to have nothing to do with what we're going to talk about after that. I mean, there's a tangential relationship, but I run LaFleur Marketing. We've been around for about 11 years. Mostly work in professional services, work with a lot of lawyers, accountants, consulting, things like that.
Nice.
And so you and I got connected in an odd way. I don't even really remember. But I ended up hanging out with you in your office. We chatted, talked about some AI stuff. And then you also have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Legal Marketing Radio. So it's a very different experience. You know, it's a bunch of Teams calls with people all over the country. We do not have a cool studio. So this is awesome, man. The sound quality is amazing.
Yeah, we're
spoiled,
better than we deserve, for sure. Like, we do not do it justice, but we're very thankful for what we get to do here. So we talked. I was actually a guest on your podcast. I think the one view was me. So that was fun. And then we'd see each other here and there, different events and stuff. And then you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm building something cool." And so we talked about it, and we were having some technical issues. So this would be my first time actually seeing it. We were talking about concept and the theory and what you're building, but I didn't get to see it due to, there was a Microsoft Azure outage that day that affected Teams. And
imagine that.
Yeah. There was just one 2 days ago again. So I'm excited to see it for the first time. But this won't be the only thing we talk about that's AI related today. I want to get into some of the other stuff that you're doing as well, but this is kind of the core of the conversation. So this is probably the best that I can tee it up if you wanted to speak a little bit more to it. And
I feel very teed.
All right.
That's great. I mean, like everything, I was trying to solve a problem, right? And so, we've gone about 11 years and we've never really had SOPs. We've started to go down that road and hit a roadblock somewhere. Usually it's just kind of figuring out what we've already written about. Maybe we do two of the same ones, but they're completely different. And it just became a big hassle to try to get it in place. And finally got really frustrated, there's got to be a way to do this, And so I started out in Word, of course, which you'd think would be great at, managing large amounts of content, which is what it's supposed to do. Turns out it's terrible. And finding your way around there and navigating is a nightmare, right? And as soon as you get more than a couple hundred pages, it's so slow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was using kind of a combination of deep research and ChatGPT to get my first draft anyway. So deep research on what we're doing. I was using, going through our SharePoint emails and stuff. Most of these things we had documented. And if we didn't have documented, we had pretty good inference as to how things work. So I ended up with a pretty sizable draft, and then just couldn't find a way to get that to be consumed by a GPT very, very effectively. It was too big. And I also hate working with Word, which is terrible because I used to like Microsoft a lot. But So I tried to come up with a solution and finally landed on Obsidian for the management, right? And I thought, okay, well, this is Markdown Reader. This will do everything that I needed to do. So moved everything out of Word, moved it all into Obsidian, and that worked great. Obsidian has a built-in GPT with Copilot. You can it's not built-in, it's a community plugin. You can plug it in and it will consume, theoretically the vault. But it still doesn't consume the whole of the vault. It consumes like a chunk of it, and it starts to get a little weird on the edges, right? And so started editing, building more, and it just wasn't like giving me the context that I wanted. So I started digging in. I thought, man, if I could just put this somewhere where OpenAI could just get to it. And I feel like you over-teed me up because I don't think any of this is particularly hard to do. Like, I think it's pretty accessible. So I go to OpenAI and I see, okay, look, we can set up a vector store right there. I can move the files over, used cursor, and said, here's what I'm trying to do. And it basically was like, well, here's one way we could do it. And basically, I took all of my Markdown files, put them into a GitHub repo, and then built the software so that the GitHub repo would do a comparison of the vector store. And then anytime there's a change to the repo, it pushes or pulls to the vector store. So it ended up, I think, kind of almost like simulating like this. I think it kind of simulates like a larger context window, right? Because when it queries the vector store, it's just specifically trying to find what you're talking about. And that's all that's really relevant for the conversation. And then it queries the store every time that you ask a question. So it's kind of like this constantly updated, chat window specific to the thing you're trying to solve. So, it's not really much to look at. But, if we go in here, here's our SOPs. You can copy them if you want. They're super interesting. We're using Git built into Obsidian. Git pushes and pulls. I've got a couple people working on this at any given time. The rest of the team is not interfacing with it here. The rest of the team is interfacing with just a URL because this will publish a quick site. And then this has my SOP bot, right? And the SOP bot's built straight into ChatGPT. And if we go in here to edit, it's got our normal instructions, and then we've got our actions, right? And so it's within the actions that it then basically calls a Vercel serverless function that patches into the vector store, which you'd think, everything is in OpenAI, but it still has to leave OpenAI to come back to OpenAI. So it pulls whatever we're asking about. So like, if we get out of our edit, which SOP applies to handling a client complaint. And it's gonna pop up a little modal and say, do you want to connect? Yes, we do. And this is like the moment of truth. Usually works, but live demos are live demos.
Yeah. Playing with fire. So while this is coming up, so not all of, I'm imagining half of the audience didn't catch most of what you just said. They're not familiar with Vector. They're not familiar with Obsidian or any of that stuff. So we don't have to get too deep into it. But I think something that if anybody is using ChatGPT that's very helpful is to talk about just these custom GPTs, which is your SOP bot. So, and I don't want to go through and show your instructions again and give away the secret sauce, but what you built in a custom GPT is something that you don't have to keep recreating these prompts whenever you want to go to this. So, and if you're using the Teams version of ChatGPT, you can share custom GPTs across anybody that's in your tenant, right? Yep. So any of your employees, if they all are using ChatGPT Teams, can go and do the same thing that you just did, but they didn't have to build it themselves. You built it and shared it, so everybody has access to it. And you don't have to go think of the right prompt when you want to find the right SOP for whatever it is. So it's saving you a ton of time. You had to build it up front. But now you've got this ready-made SOP search bot, really. So very great use of the technology.
Yeah, so Believe it or not, in my spare time, I hang out with lawyers and show them how to use ChatGPT, and I show them projects. I wish I was kidding about that. I show them projects and custom GPTs, right? Because that solves so many problems. My wife and I in our spare time, we buy like antique things and take them in the wood shop and fix it or try to fix it. And as a part of that, we have a custom GPT that I built, and you take a picture and it comes and it tells you this is what this thing is worth. This is where it seems to come from and all these things, right?
Nice.
But in order to have that set up, we have to have the instructions there. Otherwise it's like, thanks for the picture.
Yeah.
And we'll say some
what do you
random
want me to
thing.
do?
Yeah. What do you want me to do with it? So you build that out, and then you have all these functions now that are just at your fingertips, right? Now, the difference here in this custom GPT is it has an action, and the action runs some JSON and pulls it or sends the query over where it needs to go, right? And that's happening in a Vercel serverless endpoint, and
that was when you hit confirm, that was that action taking place.
Yep. Yeah, and the nice thing, I mean, it's kind of a pain, but like the nice thing about it is, if it has not hit the vector store. So sometimes it'll just answer, right? And it won't usually. I mean, I've been very explicit in the instructions, like you need to hit the vector store. But I don't really know, like, if it knows what that is, right? So like, I've worded it a couple different ways. If I say hit the Vercel function, but that doesn't travel well with clients when I say, hey, I built this thing for you. So usually when I say hit the vector store, it gives me that prompt, right? But I know if it didn't, it's lying, and it will lie so much. Like, hey, I hit your vector store, and here's what I have to say. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
because you didn't say the thing.
I didn't confirm anything, so you didn't do it. That's interesting. That's a nice little quality check right there. So you can confirm instantly whether or not it's hallucinating or if it's actually hitting. That's cool.
Well, and like this entire project, that was completely accidental. Also, it's just like it's a function of what it has to do, right?
Yeah.
But it is a nice failsafe, and that failsafe comes in handy. I'll show you another example in a little bit, but that works out well. And so, to your point, one, we can share this GPT out to anybody in the org, and I think projects now we can share out internally.
Just
as well.
A week ago, they made it so you can do projects now too. Yep.
But you can make a GPT like this public if you want to. So this one, you don't have to be into the same instance. You can just share it out. Now, I don't really want everybody to comb through my SOPs, so I'm not going to share it out.
Yeah.
But, I have built some of these for other people, and I've shared those out, and then they'll use it. I keep an eye on my API usage and stuff like that to make sure that they're, that they didn't leak, that somebody's not querying a bunch of things. But most of what we make is so boring that, like, nobody is going to go there, accidentally.
Right. So when you and I talked about this project, you had mentioned that when you started getting into calling the vector database, and you were seeing an improvement in the responses that you were getting. So can you talk about the little bit more about the before and after? I know we just kind of talked about. I know it didn't hit Vercel because it didn't ask me to confirm.
Yeah.
But what was the experience? From a quality standpoint, before you got more into deeper into calling into the actual database?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple paths to go there. One is like writing SOPs is hard, right? Like you're trying to define all these things, and it's like writing a novel. There's a reason that there's only like one Lord of the Rings, and so you have to keep track of all these things, right? Like you have to keep track of all the characters. You have to keep track of all the stories, all the places. And, I don't know how Token did it, but like I can't do it. And I can't even do it with our own processes that are in the company that I made up, right? And so for me, as the author of most of these, I had this tool now available to say, what did I already cover and what am I missing, right? Because when we start thinking of SOPs, the what am I missing part is like the biggest part. And so it gave me a tool to be able to like kind of converse and say, I'm missing all of these SOPs around all these functions. And every time I'd get to the point where I thought, hey, these are good, I'd ask the question and it would give me a new topic. And it was like, oh shit, like that's probably important, like finance, right? Like, who thinks of that one? And so I'm like, well, I should probably write an SOP around that whole department, I'm just kidding. I did write that one right away. But anyway, so it gave me the ability to kind of read in there. The other thing it gave me the ability to do was like not have conflicts, right? Because we have SOPs for account strategists. We also have SOPs for project managers. Really easy to have the project manager assign the same thing as the account strategist, right? If we're talking client communications at the account strategy level, is that at the project manager level? Is it both? And both is not good. So it gave me the ability to kind of ask those questions and queries. And then it even gave me all the way down to 3 of your SOPs are written in passive voice. And I'm like, no one gives a shit. But it turns out people do. And I also should.
Sorry, before you go on, can we go back to kind of deduplication of efforts? So you're saying that 2 different teams or players from different teams might do the same task.
Well, ideally, that's what you don't want, right? You don't want 2 people to have the same accountability.
Right. So are you saying that you essentially asked your SOPs, like, are there people that are doing the same thing, and find where there's overlap? And
I mean, we can try it, right? Like,
So you're typing in, are there any SOPs that have multiple people accountable for the same thing? We're looking for that overlap duplication.
if I was really smart, I would have like built one in, right? I would have like hidden one in there, and then we would have had a great example.
That would have been
Like,
awesome.
aha, there it is.
I don't think that far ahead at all. But we'll see what it comes up with. But at the beginning, as I'm starting to fill this thing out, like, all of these things were like, well, you didn't cover this thing. This seems like a business function. I mean, certain things around HR, certain things around the employee experience, and some of that is covered in like our employee manual, but it's still called out, hey, this was missing. So here we go. So if you deliberately assign, maybe is that deliberate? I'm not sure, but deliberately assign overlapping accountability. So like quarterly retention audits. So the executive vice president owns the process, account strategist prepare the brief. So, I mean, this is basically saying like no.
Yeah.
And it should be saying no, because I was asking you that question enough times to find like, hey, where are conflicts? Because I mean, part of the problem with SOPs is like, how do you find the conflicts in your own SOPs? You could say, do this thing this way, and then elsewhere in another one. And like when you go through this, when you look at the structure of the SOPs, right? Like we've got our core processes. Well, our core processes, marketing strategy and planning, largely is covered by account strategy, right? So we already have duplication right here. So does this one and this one, does core processes and marketing strategy, do those align? Like very easy to have that not be true. And then, we've got, we've got like a whole bunch of chapters in here, right? So it ends up being, it was like 300,000 characters or something like that. It's not huge, but it's a decent little novel. So this gave us the ability to kind of navigate all of that and get something there. And then I think the point you were making too was, once we rolled this out, we gave access to our team. And so our team, I know, is using this because I can see, on the back end that I can see has a usage. I can't see what people are looking at.
Yep.
At least that I know of. And so I can see people do use it and they query it. And then it also helps us write new SOPs, right? Because now someone can say, hey, we don't have and actually I have to do this, but like we don't have an SOP around Kisi, which is what we use to get into our place, our door security. So now when I write that SOP, I can say, this is what we use for our door security, check the vault, write an SOP, and it's going to grab all the rest of it. And it's probably going to write a perfectly fine SOP and it's going to be done. I'm not going to have to author it.
And did you create an SOP writer persona?
I did at some point, but I find that I just don't need it here.
Okay.
Because it's referencing all the SOPs that I've written, and it writes them like that one.
Yeah, in that same tone, that same directness.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the instructions for the shared GPT kind of cover that as well as everything else. So I tend to use just the one.
Okay.
Do you have this like integrated with Slack or anything that people can query using Slack?
Yeah, partially. So On our team, if anybody sees it, so I don't have it built in to query it from Slack right now, which I could, and that's a great idea. So I'm going to go do that later. What I currently have built into Slack is people can go in and make a suggestion for an SOP change, right? And so, I mean, it has to be a loop, right? If you don't get feedback on your SOPs, no one's going to use your SOPs.
Right.
And so as of right now, you can / suggest -SOP, I think, in our Slack instance. And then you copy and paste the title, and then you write what the change is and then the reason. And as of right now, I mean, I'm sure there's a more advanced way to do this, but as of right now, that creates an issue in GitHub and assigns it to my executive vice president, to Bob. And then it stays with Bob until it gets addressed. And so with issues, I mean, in our org, we can't delete issues. So the issues are persistent. So he has to deal with them, whether he wants to or not, or assign them to somebody else, right? And they stay there until they get addressed, right? And so then we have to close the loop. We go in and say, okay, here's the suggestion. But again, the nice thing is we can copy that suggestion into this GPT and say, someone had the suggestion around this SOP. It will then rewrite the SOP with that suggestion baked in. Now, you could do that a couple different ways. Obsidian has a built-in Copilot, right? So we can do that here. But what I've personally found, working with this now for a while, I tried replicating a lot of this over in Notion because I thought, well, man, if Notion is doing all this stuff anyways, I'll just do it there.
Yeah.
Problem is Notion isn't using the same vector. They're not using that sort of structure, right? They're not using a vector store. So it loses track of what the conversation is really quickly. It doesn't pull in the full context. And I don't think that this does either, but it pulls in the most relevant context because it's got that vector store behind it, right? So I tried using Notion to solve the same problem for about a month or two, but I didn't get the output that I needed. So I think it's useful maybe for a smaller data set, but you're just limited on which models you can use, and you're stuck in their system.
Yeah.
Any success stories of folks that have been using it? Are you getting feedback of, man, it used to take me forever to figure out how to do X?
None. No. Everybody hates it. I'm just kidding.
And we're done.
And there's a success story. Thanks. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
No. I mean, what I've gotten is I've gotten a whole bunch of issues in GitHub, right? And so I've got people on our team who are interfacing with the SOPs, and that's the biggest success to me, because if people are going to use them, I'm not really going to know. I could theoretically see traffic and stuff like that, but I don't think that gives us much info. What I want to see our team saying these are wrong, and here's how. And so, it's happening, across different areas of our organization, but I'm getting that feedback. And sometimes I'm getting a lot of it, right? Like, hey, this is off. Like, which one do you want me to do it the way I've been doing it? Or do you want me to do it how it's in the SOP?
Yep.
And that's the beauty of SOPs is now we can make a decision, right? We're doing the stuff and we're doing it a certain way, but now I understand how we're doing it versus what the vision of how I think we want to do it is. And sometimes the vision is wrong, right? It's not possible or it's not as effective. We've got all these ideas. Now we've got an opportunity to define the process.
Yeah.
So that's my measurement of success is, are people disagreeing with the SOPs? If yes, then awesome, because it means they read them.
Exactly.
And they're thinking about them. And so, man, we've gotten 50 plus. And we're a small organization. I mean, we've got about 10, 11 people, and so to get that much response has been pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
No,
that way
that
you can
is
evolve those SOPs, especially over time as stuff changes.
Yeah.
I mean, you want that feedback. You want the ability to be able to edit it and go, yeah, this is a more effective way now.
So people, when they think about AI, they think about what's the ROI. With this, it's hard to measure, right? Because what you're producing is clarity. You're not producing margin. Indirectly, you might be. If people can know exactly how to do their job without having to guess, they're going to do it faster and they're going to do it more reliably and they're going to do it the LaFleur way, right? Harder to measure it that way. But how important is that clarity? Because certainly you want people to debate the SOP until everybody agrees on that this is the right way. How important is that?
I mean, it's the whole point of like the E-Myth Revisited, which I think is one of the more commonly cited, business. Like, here's a business model. This is how we do it, right?
Yep.
And I mean, the whole premise is like, why is McDonald's successful? You know, you get a burger in Boston, you get a burger in LA. It tastes exactly the same. Like, how do you pull that off? Well, you pull it off by documenting your processes and making sure people follow them.
Yeah.
And you have everything documented. You know, and it's going through that whole process, right? And the whole premise, like, you start a business to do this thing that you're good at. And then pretty soon you have to run a business. You're not doing that thing anymore. So how do you ensure that people do it? And through the years, you know, we oftentimes have found ourselves in a situation where we do one thing really well. And we do that thing well because we have a person who's really good at it. And then they leave. And all of a sudden we're doing a different thing really well. And I want both. Right. And so like I want the person who does the thing really well to teach other people how to do it. But to do that, we have to document it. We have to have a training program. We have to get people spun up. Right. And so this is a mechanism for that. But the SOP library is like where it started. Like, this was the problem to solve. And then for us, I mean, we run a marketing company, but it's like the cobbler's shoes, right? The cobbler's kids' shoes. Somebody's shoes.
They're cobbler's kids' shoes are all jacked up.
Yeah. So we've had people again who have done a great job with our marketing, and when they've been with us, it's been great. Things change, people leave, right? And so I thought, man, if I could do this here, can I replicate this on our marketing side? So like separately, I have a separate repository, right, for our own marketing. And it's another repo using Obsidian. It syncs up with GitHub. I have a separate vector store, and I have a separate bot, right? So now that becomes kind of circular too. And so I'm taking the same build, and over there I'm inputting, here's our mission, vision, values. Here's all our strategy documentation. Here's our branding, our positioning, how we win, all of the things, right? Jobs to be done, everything. And then I can query that whenever I create a new creative piece. It pulls all that in. So now it's using our voice, and it knows what's around us, right? It knows the environment. And where I found a lot of benefit there has been, especially around like event related stuff. So going into Tech Week, we've got a conference coming up here in Fort Worth in a couple weeks. So I go in there and I put all that in and say, here's what we've got going on. And then the system comes back and says, hey, you need these social posts to support it. You need these email campaigns. You need these print materials. You need these booths. Like, now it has the context and the dates and what we're doing there. So the more we put in there to say, here's the context, right? And that's what whenever I talk about AI, I think of context and purpose, right? Like, give the AI the purpose that it needs. Like, what is its job, right? And then give it the context to do it. Well, we can kind of do both, right? Mm-hmm. So we do that by giving it all of the knowledge that it needs about the thing, and then you give it the purpose in your query, right? And, in your prompt, and then it hits the vector store and it comes back. So, for our conference in Fort Worth, we don't miss a beat, right? So like, we're posting about it weeks in advance. We have teed up. They've got, here are the pictures we want you to take while you're there. Like, it's the full context. And so now the folks that are going, they've got that support. They've got the flyers. There's no scramble because it's all been built out. And then our creative team does the creative, right? And so I might first draft, but then we've got our editors who are going to edit. We've got designers who are going to build it. We use Figma, so we can pull in some of that to automate some of that. But then the human element can come in and do the part that humans are great at.
Yep.
Which is not keeping track of how many social posts we should do before and after an event. Not that there's not people that are great at that, but like, when you do that,
you need a person for that.
Well, and how many different things do you have going on at once, right? Like, how many campaigns? If you miss your social schedule for event number 17, then you don't get your ROI from event 17 that you could have gotten.
Yep.
And so I'm doing this, and if I may, we're building on this now, right? So, excuse me. I hope you can edit that out.
If we did, we'd miss half the podcast.
Oh my gosh. My old man coffin.
No, the problem is, like, I turned a bunch of bowls on a lathe over the weekend, and this is terrible. This is my own fault. I didn't wear a mask
Yep.
because I have pretty good, dust collection and stuff like that. But when you get into like the fine sandpaper, you really need a little more. And so I just killed myself over the weekend, and like
We were just talking about how we're
still
both
doing it.
woodworkers, and if I use mahogany
oh god,
and that fine dust,
Oh,
it makes
yeah.
me itch like crazy.
oh seriously.
Oh yeah,
You know,
it makes me itch like
So-
crazy.
shit a Yule
Yeah.
log.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I've been all congested ever since. I'm doing all the rinse and all that stuff, and like it's getting better. But
So what did we learn in this podcast?
Made a
Wear a
mistake.
mask.
Wear a
when-
mask.
always wear a mask, man.
when you
Otherwise, you get
sand.
emphysema. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
exactly.
not good for you, and I know better. But anyways, so on the marketing side, we built out the same engine, right? We're using it for ourselves, starting to roll it out for our clients too. And again, it makes us not miss something. But then ChatGPT or OpenAI, I should say, just came up with this, right? And so now they've got Agent Builder over here in OpenAI, right? And you have to build your own interface, right? So it's not super consumer friendly, but in here we can now pull in our vector store, right? And so right here under tools, we've got our own internal marketing vector store. So for this, I mean, I'm inputting a piece of content here, and it's making a determination who it's for. And then when it figures that out, it makes a determination what the output is. And then, for example, if it's a blog, it goes to our editor, which has custom.
Could you do me a favor? Can you
instructions.
zoom in,
Yeah.
like way in, because this is going to be impossible for people to see.
Well, I think we're switching it so that it's not.
Okay.
They're not just
Never
seeing
mind.
yeah, but it does still help to zoom in. So thank you.
Yeah. So
I can't see it.
So you're starting off, right? You hit Agent 1. Agent 1's job is just to figure this out, right? Is it for, who's it for? And then Agent 2 goes in and says, okay, what is it? And then depending on the output here, I mean, the social media expert, I mean, they've got instructions here. This editor, though, and actually all of these hit the vector store, right?
Nice.
And so then we can optimize for SEO, for geo, for performance. Then we do a formatting agent. And this, I mean, it looks complicated because there's a lot of like things floating around, but it's really just two if-else statements in here, and then it's sending it to the right thing. But we can create instructions for each of these agents, and we could tie each agent back to the vector store. So in this scenario, we could have this tied back to the LaFleur marketing vector store. We could have this tied to SEO, geo best practices vector store, whatever has enough volume for it to make sense. So if it's just a file, or 10 files, then attach the files. But if you want to actually go into something deeper, if you want a bigger knowledge base, it can pull that. And so this is just kind of a beginning stage, but I've been using this. OpenAI had some bumps in the road at the very beginning where it wasn't super reliable, but they seem to have kind of cleaned that up now. And now this outputs very, very consistently. So now we have these multi-step things, right? And we can do file search. We can build in guardrails, right? So now when we get into, especially because we do a lot of stuff, in more regulated industries, we can build out guardrails to say, flag these things, handle it this way. If else, I mean, the things that we can do with it, if else are endless, right? I mean, like so many, anything, but the if else can be determined by an agent, right? So if we, I don't have a good example, but if we grab a post, we can actually watch it work, right? In a preview. So if I actually go in here to my, there we go. There we go. I'll just feed it an SOP. That'll be weird. And I'll just say it's for the floor, then it'll figure it out. So now we can watch his workflow, right? So it's going to Agent 1 first and saying, hey, I want to make an if-else determination here. Who's this for? And it should figure out pretty quick that it's for LaFleur because that's what I put in here. And then someday it will move on to the next agent.
Eventually.
Yeah. And it should end up, there we go. I figured that out. So now it's going to the first agent, right? And this first agent is also a determiner, right? Is this a blog post, social post, email? Oh, it says, hey, this is a blog. I didn't give it context around that. It just is long enough that it's like, you know, I think I know what a blog is. This is what I think it is.
Structured like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we can follow it along right, in here in the chat window too. So here's our input, and then the agent is doing its reasoning. And all of these things can be tuned, right? So we can choose the agent. We can say, you know, we want to use 4.1, we want to use 4.0, 5, whatever. We can choose if we want a bigger, you know, a larger amount of compute to go towards reasoning, or smaller.
So you start with a blank slate here. You say, okay, well, I guess first of all, what led you to using the OpenAI agent builder? I mean, there's so many more well-established. There's the N8Ns and there's Veach and...
I mean, I like to go right to the source, right? Like if I can, you know, and I just look at, one of the things that drives me nuts is like, there's so much coming at us so fast, right? And there's a new service that does all of the things at any given time. And then one of those things gets, I mean, and it's scary from like a societal perspective, because all of those things are getting gobbled up so fast, right? And from the outset, we've seen companies come to the market and say, hey, we do this thing. And then 2 weeks later, OpenAI does it.
Somebody else is doing the thing. Yep.
Yeah, and it's one of the big players, right? And so, like, you know, Notebook LM, like it's doing a thing that you used to be able to string together 3 or 4 other things, and you could do it. So I just have kind of defaulted to, if I can do it in OpenAI, if I can do it in Anthropic, I try to do it there. And that also supports some of the, you know, I actually do talk with lawyers all the time, and I walk them through, like, here's what you could do with ChatGPT. Here's what you could do with, here's what you could do with Anthropic. Here's what you can do with Gemini. Because I think that helping people understand what you can do with those kind of core programs, so the big LLMs, that helps them, it kind of inoculates them against getting ripped off, right? By people who come and say, hey, look, this is AI powered. Well, how exactly?
Yeah.
Like, what is the function here?
Right.
Is it something that you could just get, you know, from OpenAI? And the other thing is, this doesn't cost me any more than I'm already paying for, right? I mean, I'm using a little bit of compute, but like $10 a month, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm building this out here. So I think that there's other ways to do it, you know, like, what is it, pipe drive or whatever. Anyway, so now let's try to rewrite this, right? It's giving it, you know, kind of the output of more of a blog post. I mean, it's a SOPs is not exactly something you want to publish,
Right.
But it did optimize it. It went through all those things, and then it can output, and I can output this to wherever I want, right? So, anyway, and the other thing is this can pull in my vector store very easily. It's all kind of tied in right there. So it's doing some cool stuff. And then if we wanted to, we can output this out into code, and we can take it and put it wherever we want to go.
So did you build this?
Yeah.
And did you just start from the beginning and build it as you go through, I've not used the AI, OpenAI agent builder. Does it have the ability to describe in natural language what you want to have happen, and it will build the workflow out? Or
no, I mean, I'm building this one out.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just started from a blank slate, basically.
Okay.
I just said, here's what I wanted to do. But I mean, blank slate, like usually it's a conversation with ChatGPT or something like that.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. And then also using that vector store to say, like, here's how our SOPs work. Help me build this thing to support our system. And then it tends to give me instructions.
Okay.
Pretty clear.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I think people are really going to see a lot of value in this.
Yeah,
Thank
I do
you
too.
for sharing that. I mean, this is exactly where everything that we've been doing has come to this. We're not just talking about how cool AI is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're really trying to show how people are using it. And I think what you've shown there can inspire a lot of people to say, oh, okay, this isn't voodoo magic. Like,
See what's possible.
if I just sit down and I take the time and I go, the hip bone's connected to the leg bone, and just go through, then you can start to create some really cool workflows there.
Cool. We got to wrap this up.
Damn it.
It's always when we're getting good. These podcasts are going to be like 4 hours long next time.
Yeah.
Well, Chip, appreciate you being on here. It's been a long time coming. We wanted to get you on here to show some of this stuff off. Tell our viewers where they can find you.
I mean, they can find me right downtown on Ottawa, just north of 196 at LaFleur Marketing. They can come to our website, LaFleur.marketing. There is no .com. If you try to email me with a .com, it won't get there. But yeah, LaFleur.marketing.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks. This was super fun.
Appreciating
it. Yeah.
talking with you and seeing what you can do with this. This is exciting. This is
Thanks.
exciting stuff, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you like today's episode, hit the like and subscribe button or leave us a comment of what workflows are you building right now. Thanks, everybody.